So you found the skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
All right, everybody. Almost started late because I was an idiot. I'm here with Erika, of course.
I am here and raring and ready to go. I tried to tell Dapper, I kept saying, man, we're about to start. And he kept saying, no, I'm keeping a close eye on it. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened, word for word. All right, so, but before we actually get going, even with the, reading of the, our rules, I say reading, but I just say them. Anyway, I'm about to drop a link into the chat. I would like everybody to please take a look at it. It is a fundraiser for a community member who has been very supportive of quite a few people here, myself included, because she has recently had a cancer diagnosis. And while her treatment will be largely covered by her insurance, the one problem we do have is that the job she does isn't something where she can keep making money if she's not doing it. So for at least for a while, she will simply be living off of whatever money she has right now, which is not as much as she would like for her living expenses. So currently the fund has gotten to its goal, but it's always nice to have a little bit of a buffer. Oh, I'm sorry, I guess it has not gotten to its goal. I was wrong. So yeah, so one is, if you would like, feel free to donate at that link that is in the live chat now. So also, 50% of the proceeds from all this, any ads or super chats that I get here on this, I'm going to be donating to that. So if you do super chat here, some of that will also be going to help support Ilya through her battle with cancer. So
by supporting causes like this, that's what communities are for.
Yeah.
We help each other out when we need it. So hell yeah.
I will also be linking that again later on in the stream. I'll probably link it at the hour mark. I'm not sure if we're doing 2 hours or 1 hour today. So
yeah, unfortunately I think I might have to cut it to 1 hour today. As upset as that makes me.
That's all right. All right, so we have rules though. We have rules for the drinking. So we drink whenever Eric says something so stupid that we kind of have to, just to keep our sanity.
That's right, folks. We
also drink whenever he gets something unironically right, and he's not just quoting someone, he actually gets a fact correct. We drink for that.
It's rarer than you think.
So basically every time I've done this, we've always had a drink for him getting something right, but it's always our least common reason. Oh, I should probably close my windows. They're going to cause messages. But, yep. We also drink right there. I don't know why it got cut short, but yeah, when Godzilla or Mothra stop by, we'll take a drink for that.
This is a kaiju-friendly zone.
It is, yeah. We're gigantic fans of huge monsters that stomp through cities. All right, so
I'm actually fiddling around with my kaiju King Kong right now.
Nice.
NECA figurine, so plug that.
All right. So let's bring up the actual screen. So this is where we left off, and here we go. More Eric.
What do I?
Oh, sorry.
These things fly again. I don't have time to cover that, so I'm just teasing you with that, I guess.
He's talking about paper airplanes.
Our Magic Tricks video. So
for some reason,
somebody copy that and you can check that out. Okay, Magic Tricks video. We shot one off the Hoover Dam. My dad and I did. Woo! All the way to the bottom. I tell you what, it was so
wow.
Cool. That was a long ways.
I guess this was before the lawsuit, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, things were way less dicey at that point.
Yeah, I mean, part of me feels like I shouldn't be making fun of someone else's family drama, but it's the Hovinds, so I don't really care.
Oh, I don't feel bad at all. Like, if the thing is like I take Eric's side unironically just because I like Eric better.
Yeah, I mean.
That being said, I still think it's really funny.
Well, I think it's especially funny that apparently Hovind filed it in a sovereign citizen court, which is an arbitration court, which means all Eric has to do to win is simply not agree to be bound by arbitration.
Dude, oh my
That's
god,
it.
he did it in the sovereign citizen court.
Well, so here's the thing. You can actually use those courts, right? Because you can basically, if two parties in a lawsuit agree to be bound by arbitration, they can pick whatever form of arbitration they mutually agree to. So, like, if someone were suing you, you could literally agree with that person, hey, let's see what Dapper thinks. And we'll both agree to be bound by Dapper's decision. Oh, drink for Mothra. And Godzilla. Alright, so that is a thing you can do. It's called arbitration. It happens actually a lot. Mostly because courts are expensive and lengthy. So a lot of times when people would be in a lawsuit, they simply agree to be bound by arbitration. But the thing is, you can, if you file a suit with an arbitration court, no one has to respond to you. Because you haven't agreed to be bound by that court. Oh, drink for Godzilla again. My goodness.
Godzilla is aware of the conversation.
Right, so usually if you want to use something like that, like one of those sovereign citizen tribunal court things, you agree beforehand. Because you don't want to bring it into the legal system where it can take forever. So, yeah, basically just filing a lawsuit with one of these courts means almost nothing. So, yeah. Fortunately for Kent Hovind, he has sued in regular court to the government for his $500 million lawsuit.
Which he most certainly will win, of course.
Oh, absolutely. There's no way he's not going to get $500 million. I mean, anyway, after that little dive into Hovind family drama, let's get a little bit more actual Eric Hovind talking.
So, we do like science. But what is real science? Science, as defined in Webster's dictionary, is knowledge that is gained by observation and study. Things we can know because we can see it, we can test it, we can demonstrate it.
No,
well, I want to take a real
I mean, I actually wouldn't disagree with that definition. It's just that Eric here is about to pretend that things that we can see and demonstrate, we can't.
Dude, I can't with this. This is one of my least favorite tropes by these guys, which is take something true and warp it into something that it is not applicable to.
Yeah.
And I love the science is observable one because it's just so easy to roast. I mean, the sheer number of fields of science that we have that require no direct observation, it's absolutely insane.
Well,
like what you have to throw out.
One of the problems with it is that the word observe, for most people, when you say, oh, I observe something, what it means to you as like a lay person who's not talking about the scientific method is more or less, I saw a thing happen. Like, did you observe that cardinal fly by? And you're like, yep, I saw the bird. But in science, an observation usually means something that you can measure, right? So when I take an observation of, say, a fossil, I'm doing something like taking a ruler to it, seeing how long it is, measuring, taking calipers and seeing how thick like a zygomatic arch is or something like that, right? Like taking actual measurements and writing them down. Unfortunately for Eric and creationism as a whole, you can observe things to do with the past. You can observe things like you can measure isotope ratios, you can measure deposition rates, you can measure how many annual VARs there are, and so he's basically just equivocating on observation, or at least that's what I expect him to do, because, I mean, creationist, right?
Oh yeah, so the example that I always think of too is like in astronomy, right? So we have witnessed, right, supernova occur, and if we were to take a new observation of a supernova that has already happened, right, the aftermath of a supernova, it would be reasonable to look at that and say, yes, okay, well, what's happened here is that a star, something that was previously a star, has indeed undergone the end of its lifetime, gone the supernova route, and that's what we're viewing the results of. Mm-hmm. But in Eric's world, looking at that would not be acceptable, despite the fact that we know that that's what stars do, and in the case of evolution, we know things change with descent with modification in response to their environments today, but extrapolating that backwards is not okay with these folks.
Nope.
And so doing so in astronomy would equally be not allowed.
Yeah, it's...
Which is ridiculous and silly, of course.
Ultimately, it would ruin even forensic science. Like, you can't tell how that person died. All you know is that they're dead, and there's lots of stab wounds, and there's a knife that matches the stab wound, and we found the dead person's blood in this guy's car, and his initials are carved onto the handle of that knife. But we weren't there.
You weren't there. Yeah.
So that's not sufficient. we have to have an eyewitness. So we'll just ask the guy who we think could possibly be the murderer, hey, did you kill this guy? And when he says no, then it's like, well, he was there.
Ah, damn! Too bad no one was there for this one. Case
Well,
closed.
no, he was. We asked the suspect, and he said no, he didn't do it. So eyewitness, there you go, innocent.
Yeah, case closed. Oh my god. The Venerable Bede says in the side chat, Erika sure seems fed up lately. Same, Erika, same. Yes, I have grown more jaded, unfortunately. I'm getting more and more irritable with this whole thing, just because I feel like I'm explaining the same thing to a lot of people multiple times. And I'm projecting that onto poor young Erik here.
Oh, I just realized I spelled Eric with a K in the name of this video. It's Eric with a K with Erika with a K. At least I remember to spell your name with a K. I see a lot of people spell it with a C sometimes.
Yeah, the thing is you know, I get that kind of heat all the time. The name Erika spelled wrong, so I'm sure that our baby Hovind here can handle it.
Yeah, you know what? I'll just leave it. It's Eric with a K now. Well, for now.
He's got to cope with it.
Yeah, I'm sure he's. You know what? Actually, I know that Erik actually has a pretty decent sense of humor about himself. Like, he's willing to, take some lighthearted ribbing, so he will be okay, even if he saw this.
Yeah. He is indeed fine with the ribbing, and we like that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
The quality of Erik.
Yeah, his father takes himself way too seriously.
Yeah, he absolutely does, for everyone's good.
Yeah. Not exactly a psychologist, but a narcissistic personality, maybe? On the Hovind?
You could do a powerful thesis, just on the Hovinds, the pathology there.
Oof. All right, let's get a little bit more in.
Close look at evolution. And by the way, if you're in here or you're watching this or you're listening and you believe in evolution, please take this with an open mind, okay?
You got
Look
it.
at the evolution and see how much of evolution is actually part of science.
All right.
Knowledge derived from observation and study. Let's check it out here real quick. The first type of evolution we have to discuss.
We're going to drink for each one of these except the last two. So here we go. Take a drink.
Would be the origin of time, space, and matter, referring to the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, that's what that is. You could just call it the Big Bang.
Science is things that we can see,
Yeah,
test, and
we
demonstrate.
love the equivocation here.
Yeah.
Can we see, test, or demonstrate the Big Bang Theory?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Yes,
while we
can.
cannot see the event itself, we can look at things like my two big go-tos for confirmed predictions of the Big Bang Theory. And confirmed predictions is how you test a theory, whether it be in astronomy or not. That there is a cosmic microwave background radiation, that it is at approximately the predicted temperature, and that it has an anisotropy which is consistent with the large-scale structures in the universe. All three of those things had to be true in order for this prediction about cosmic background radiation to be true. It's true. The other big one is that there are resonance structures in the universe. So one of the interesting things is that early in the universe, long before, say, light decoupled from matter, the primary means of energy transmission, because things couldn't really flow because it was so densely packed, was actually sound, right? Well, that means that things will develop a resonance frequency. So you can check to see if the resonance frequencies that we predict from the Big Bang, and I can't do all that math, but you can check to see if that actually exists, if there are structures in the universe that have this repeating structure where you get density bands as a result of these resonance structures set up with sound waves at the beginning of the universe. And we do find such structures. So there you go.
It's just a solid case of makes prediction pans out, and then being but what about the small chance that we're actually just wrong on that one? That's what these guys rely on.
Yeah, it's oh, hey, look, our findings indicate that this is the case with 99.6% probability. And then they just are doing the classic Dumb and Dumber. So you're telling me there's a chance?
So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah, that really is the mode that we're in with these guys. And it's not just that, right? It's the preponderance of predictions, and then predictions that rely on that previous prediction being the case, an accurate statement about our reality. So anything that takes the Big Bang into consideration, right, and then pans out, retroactively confirms that prediction even further to a degree of confidence, right? And so it's like, okay, so not only do you have to bust the Big Bang as a model independently, but you also have to go back through astronomy and be like, every prediction that relies on the Big Bang theory, or Big Bang model rather, being an accurate assessment of what happened at the dawn of time, you have to cope with all of that too.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, Hyena Horse Zircon Pizza Wizard, which is a great name, by the way, asks what we are drinking, and I am drinking a Shock Top and orange juice shandy tonight. Normally I would be drinking something a little bit stronger, but I need to cool it a little bit today, so.
Yep, and for the same reason I'm being lame and drinking water like a giant baby. I know. The reason is because, though, I'm coming off of a very heavy drinking weekend, and all I have in the house is wine. And as Dapper and I discussed in the pre-show, drinking wine with this particular game is not at all a safe endeavor.
I did that once and never again.
Yeah, so that is why I have resorted to, I've got some like peaches in the back of my fridge. Maybe they'll have fermented by the end of this. I can kind of sip on them, but until that day, I'm being lame. I'm hoping that for the next one, I'm just going to go ham.
Well, hopefully. There should be another one. Actually, probably 2 more Kent with Benson, then we might be able to do another Erika with Erika, because normally this would have been last week, but we flipped it around that because Bent Hovind had a pretty big day today with getting family members to the airport so that they can move and all sorts of stuff like that. So
Ben's good about pre-planning, though. Dapper sent out the Gibbon signal and let me know ahead of time that this was going to be removed a week.
Yeah, flip-flop for 1 week. So that is why we're doing it this week. But let's get some more Eric in, because now we're just trying to not have to listen to Eric Hovind.
I know. It's okay. Let's continue.
No, we can't.
Yes,
so
we can.
Could the Big Bang Theory really be called part of science?
Yes.
If science
I'm drinking.
is derived from observation and study, and we can't see, test, or demonstrate that theory, can it be called part of science?
Yes,
No,
because we can.
You can call it a theory if you want, but it's not actually...
No, we couldn't call it a theory if it weren't part of science. That's the thing. It could be the Big Bang idea. That would be fine, right? Because you can have an idea about anything. But to be a theory, it has to be science. It has to already have been tested and demonstrated consistently for a long time.
Dude, it's just a good movie, too.
Part of science. Another type of evolution that we got to talk about is chemical evolution. According to chemical evolution, that says that all the elements that we have today evolved from hydrogen and helium. How many of you had to memorize the periodic table of elements? You know what I'm talking about there.
I had to memorize it.
Memorized? You guys are doing way.
Wait, were you ever asked to memorize the entire periodic table?
Yeah, literally never. And the reason is because in chemistry, right, in our century, we are fortunate enough to have access to periodic tables whenever we need them. And likely, if you didn't, at the point at which you would be doing chemistry in a scenario where you would need the periodic table, you probably would be aware of the necessary element know-how at that point.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, you should be familiar with what it is, what it represents, and how to read it. That's what you learn in school.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that my teacher, when I was in integrated chemistry and physics as a freshman in high school, was like, "Nah, dude, that's just dumb."
Well, so Monk Mayfair said he had to memorize up to 20 or 30. I assume he means atomic number, but I mean, that is.
Well, that's more reasonable. That's in a biochem sense too. That's much more reasonable. But you're getting into the upper echelons of the elements that are man-made, synthetic, and all that stuff. I don't know.
I mean, you know what? Sphincter of Doom is in here, and he is a chemical engineer. So if anyone... Oh, no, see, he says it already. He says not even chemistry/chemical engineering majors have to memorize it. Yeah, it's just a stupid thing to have to do. Can you imagine on your chemistry final, the final is just draw the periodic table of elements from memory, go. Here's a
thing
blank
is,
piece of paper.
yeah, like that would be so much easier too than what you actually have to do. Like being able to apply chemistry in like Chem 1, Chem 2, OChems, biochem, whatever. That's the real skill. That's the real, part that's applicable. So I don't know. I would have loved that. I would have loved if my OChem professor was like, hey, so listen, we're just gonna, or I guess probably if you're memorizing the whole periodic table, it would be like a regular chem. It's like Chem 2. And he was just like, yeah, so no exam. Instead, just memorize the periodic table and then like come up with a cute jingle and then present it to the class. And I would have been like, yeah, this is awesome.
Cute jingle. Also, the Venerable Bede says that he didn't have to do that. All he had to do was study Aristotle. And I'll have you know, Venerable Bede, you also had to pour through a lot of things like, the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles and whatnot in order to write your famous work, An Ecclesiastical History of the English People, which actually was the subject of my last paper in my Christian history class. I took a section of that from the Anglo-Saxon version of the work, translated it, and introduced its significance and talked about all that stuff. The big thing was I translated it from Old English so it impressed my professor because he can't. So yeah. All right, and if we have for $2.99 Aussie dollars, or dollary dues as I like to call them. Good day, Daps and Erika, my two favorites. Well, thank you, Ian. It is wonderful to have you here. And remember,
Jen.
half of the proceeds from tonight are going to the fund to help Ilya through her cancer treatment. So, thank you very much for helping the channel, as well as helping Ilya Moon out in a time of some pretty significant stress and medical issues. So thank you very much. Again, if anyone would like to donate directly, that link will be in the chat again in a few minutes. So here we go.
Way better than I am if you still got your hand up. Man, I memorized that thing like an hour before the quiz. Got it,
No,
mostly
you
right enough to
didn't,
pass.
Yeah, that's a lie.
It's gone. But
No, you didn't.
they say all these elements that we have arrived from just hydrogen and helium.
Oh, and we have another super chat for $5. Chemistry, where 2 burning gases make water and 2 poisons make salt. That's true. That is true. And also, thank you again. Oh, and there's $2.99 more dollary dues. Erika, fix so I can send you books or put non-books in.
Ian. Okay, Ian. I'll get on it.
Ian is probably one of our most generous supporters.
Yeah, dude, for real. When Ian rolls into town, I'm like, oh god, he's about to hit us with some generosity. What do?
Yep. All right.
Happen. Can we see, test, or demonstrate it?
Yes.
No. So can we?
I wonder if he's ever seen the sun. Like that's so stupid. I'm drinking.
That's really the thing, right? Like listening to Eric do like assert this with such confidence, I've reached a point where it's just like it's like I don't know, man. It's like listening to a young child interested in skateboarding, like just completely misrepresent the sport, right? And you're like Tony Hawk or something. You're just like, what do I do with that? Is it even worth correcting? And
yeah,
it's like, yes, of course it's worth correcting. It's just, you gotta have magnum patience for guys. I would love to meet Eric just to pick his brain a little.
Well, I was going to say he's usually public about his schedule. My guess is he has a pretty low number of appearances coming up in the next few months. But you can probably get to meet him. He does a lot of public things where he actually goes out into crowds and stuff. But you can make that work. Also, we have two more super chats from Ilya Moon. Or sorry, I'm sorry. $2 dues from Ian Chen for Ilya Moon. Get well. There you go. That's why I had that in there. And also Scott Duke sent for $4.99 US dollars. Take a drink if you effing love science. All right. Well, I'll take a drink for that.
That's where you bottoms up, Scott. This is a science zone.
Yep. I will go with that. But yeah, it's just like to look at elements coming from lighter elements. You literally just have to step into the sun. Like sunlight.
So,
Don't step into the sun itself.
Yeah, so like stellar formation, like the formation of stellar, but what is it? Nucleosynthesis, right?
Yeah, nucleosynthesis. This is
technically called, nucleosynthesis. It's like this isn't a process that is a big fat mystery.
No.
And the reason it's not a big fat mystery is because we have really, really good telescopes, excellent lasers, and people who are incredibly good at, like, what is it, parallax, where you tee in on the distance of the stellar body and can, like, gather information from that and such. Yeah, am I right on that, or am I wrong? Someone tell me in the comments. Is that correct? Is parallax,
parallax is how we start our sort of measuring sticks. And real quick, for $10 from Sphincter of Doom, the only kind of cancer that doesn't suck is the delicious crustacean. Agreed. Hope she has a fruitful recovery. Okay, sure. Also, Hovind family should be studied for their existence of a Dunning-Kruger gene.
God, for real. It's Homo Krugensis is what we're dealing with these guys. It's a whole new homo.
Oh man. So parallax is how we get our distance to the nearest stars, right? Most stars that we can see, they're so distant that there's essentially no parallax.
Right.
Sorry. The parallax is below the resolution of whatever even conceivable telescope. So then what we do is we look at for standard candles, which are things of known absolute brightness, whose distance we do know from parallax. And then we can, when we look farther out, we can see other things with that are the same type object. So we have a known absolute luminosity, is what it's called. And then it's just plugging in the brightness into the equation for how the inverse square law equation, and there you go. And you get a distance out.
So I remember I watched this excellent documentary some months ago now. It was in the depths of quarantine, but it was on it was essentially on the emergence of binary stars. Like, it was looking into how we figured out stars can be binary. And one of the ways that was kind of sussed out was through, like, using principles of parallax and things like that. And so every time I'm thinking, like, okay, how can we know anything about stars? My mind just zips back to that documentary, and I'm like, drink. And then I'm like, you do parallax. So can you stars? Like, you need parallax.
Also, Sphincter of Doom points out that any jump cannon who has possibly the best name in all of science, and Cecilia Payne's work demonstrated the existence of higher elements in stars. Yes. They were a big part of helping us discover what astronomers call metallicity, which, for an astronomer, metal is anything other than hydrogen or helium. They don't care what else it is. It's all just metal. Deal with it. Oxygen's a metal. I don't care.
I'm into it.
It's it's sort of like the rock, ice, and gas distinctions in planetary science, where, like, they don't mean the things you think they mean. Carbon dioxide is an ice, according to planetary scientists. Okay.
That's the thing. When you start talking about, like, it's got ice caps, right? Like, what exactly does that? What kind of ice are we dealing with, right? Like.
Yep. Interestingly, on Mars, it's both water and dry ice.
That is just the coolest.
Yeah. So in the winter, the permanent dry ice cap gains a substantial volume from water ice that precipitates out of the atmosphere as frost.
Mars is one of those deals where I'm scared of Mars. If someone was like, I will give you money to go into space, like, I would go anywhere on this planet for any amount of money, really, if my safety could be almost assured. But space wigs me out on an existential level, and therefore so does Mars.
Well, at least, there's air on Mars. No, that's really not. There basically isn't.
No, I don't like any kind of scenario where, like, in my native environment, I just will die for, levels of, on the level of minutes or seconds even for exposure.
Here's how you measure the danger of an environment. How long can you survive naked?
Yeah, or, like, will you explode upon contact?
Well, like, that factors into the how long you can survive naked.
That is true. Although I will say, if I were to be jettisoned into space, like, for my crimes against the rest of the spacecraft, like, no, you know what? I was gonna say I wouldn't want to do it naked, but then I started thinking about it, and it's like, well, you might as well. Like,
yeah, get it over with.
Yeah, you might as well. Could be fun.
So that's why I say, like, most places on Earth are reasonably hospitable for humans. But when people are like, oh, it's too hot where you live, I'm like, okay, use the standing outside naked test. If I stand outside in Phoenix naked, assuming no one's going to arrest me, I can survive for hours. I could probably make it a few days.
Yeah, you're not gonna. Yeah, you'll be okay. Megan Fox's giant boob says, "What about Titan?" Those results are pending because I feel like it seems optimistic, but we don't know enough about Titan for me to be like, yes, I'm in on it. Plus, anytime we're talking about the moons of gas giants being potentially habitable, my thoughts are always, is it possible? And if it is possible, which it is, how likely is it that things are like already there? Like, what if we're arriving and we're secondhand and there's something already chilling out there, microorganisms or something, even a bit larger? That makes me nervous too. So it's not just the conditions. It's how would two organisms even interact if they didn't have the same like basic heritable mechanisms, right?
Yeah.
That spooks me out a little bit. I'm not big on the idea. I've seen enough science fiction to know that for whatever reason, carbon-based life never wins out on those scales.
I would like to say I did repost the link to the actual GoFundMe, so if you would like to give that way, that is the link there. Yeah, please. If you feel like you want to help Ilya Moon out, please do. She's a big part of sort of this YouTube community. So we're gonna get some more Erika in though, because now we're just talking about space just to not listen to Eric.
True. Okay, let's continue.
Call chemical evolution part of science. No, we really can't. What about the third one? The third one is stellar and planetary evolution. How the stars and the planets formed.
No one
Have
has
we ever seen a star form?
Okay.
So here's the thing, right? It's true that no one has ever seen something go directly from being a molecular cloud of hydrogen and helium and then collapse into a star and then initiate, like, that whole sequence, right? But it's equally true that no one has ever seen a seed grow into a giant sequoia.
No, yeah, 100%. And this echoes the same sentiment that's often thrown the direction of evolutionary biologists in general, which is like, when they say they want to see examples of evolution, creationists don't mean evolution. What they mean is they want to see the emergence of like entire new genera. They ask for the hyperevolution that they invoke. Wait,
Right.
Okay, Dapper, correct me. I'm doing it again, aren't I? The genera thing?
Well, no, entire new genera would be right, because that's plural, that's correct.
Okay, what did I do last time? I've been
You
on the
use
lookout
genera
for
as a singular, because it's a
a
genus.
single genus. Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
well, then the point stands, folks.
Yes, it does. And it was grammatically correct as well.
See, I'm into that. My grammar can be a bit off base sometimes, so it's always good to be corrected.
It's a weird word, and it's essentially an irregular noun in Latin, because normally most nouns that end in us in Latin end in a in the nominative plural. So like even when you get like cactus or not, that's actually cactus. Yeah, either way, it's an irregular one because normally it would actually just be an I, but yeah, it's an E. It turns to RA and it replaces the N. Latin is stupid, guys. That's not entirely true, but
I've got a love-hate relationship with Latin. It sounds cool, but also I mess it up sometimes, and it makes me feel sad and insecure.
Well, no Roman is going to come and speak strongly to you about correcting your Latin. That seems.
I certainly don't want to be held up by my local legion.
That's one of my favorite scenes, by the way, from Life of Brian, is when the Roman soldier comes up and makes him fix the guy painting Romans Go Home in Latin, fix his grammar.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, I am into that as well.
All right, so we'll get a little more Eric in here.
No? I mean, they're looking out there really, strenuously trying to find a star to form, but they've never seen one form. All they do see is stars blow up. Those are called novas or supernovas. Scientists throughout time
novae,
have said
it's
that
actually, it's
the
novae.
silent embarrassment of modern astrophysics is that we do not know how even a single one of these stars managed to form.
Wow, look at that spicy recent quote.
Yeah, that's what we were going to say the exact same thing. It's become second nature reflex to me that whenever a creationist does a quote, my eyes immediately are like, all right, was this from the 70s or was this from the 80s?
Right.
Because those are usually the 2 decades that we get.
I've seen it every once in a great while. You get them right into the 90s. And it's just like, if I'll just say this, when it comes to astronomy, if the thing you're citing wasn't published within like 10 years, I don't really care. I just don't.
Yeah, so here's the thing with that, right? Some papers, some discoveries, some methods that are detailed in papers, right, are evergreen because we still use them to a degree.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is found in like ecology or biology, where it's new concepts or, you know, the descriptions of new species or potential new mechanisms that are you know, very small, but are mechanisms that are at play.
Yeah. Like if you're going to reference a species, you usually at least mention the original description.
Right, yeah, like, listen, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a single human evolution paper or paleontology in human evolution, like bioanthropology or physical anthropology, that doesn't cite Darwin at some point. And that's just because you've got to give credit to the original author, and you're going to be talking about natural selection probably. So you're probably going to be crediting Darwin. But I say this to say, in fields that are constantly changing, like, for instance, genetics or astronomy or aspects of medicine, you're definitely not going to want to be pulling out papers that are from time periods where, like, we hadn't sequenced the human genome,
right,
or we didn't know that black holes were a thing.
Look at this wonderful paper I got from 1952 on genetics. It's like,
right, yeah, it's like, it's literally like a paper of Watson and Crick, right? And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's great, but and important, and you might be citing a paper like that. But the last thing that you want to do is take the opinion of a paper that's, you know, 5 decades old for a current opinion.
Yeah, it doesn't make this wrong, but like that we knew less about stellar formation in 1986 is not exactly surprising. And this talk had to have been given like this century. This wasn't a talk that Eric gave in the 20th century.
Yeah, but okay, it really, the long and short of it is, it boils down to, what is the subject? Has the subject changed a lot since
86
this quote was mined, essentially? Yeah, like if you were pulling this up and it was like, yes, the DNA is a double helix. Okay, that's a great quote because that's still true. Right. You know, but this is something that is very much tied to the decade in which it was said.
All right. Well, let's keep going, because until we finish this, we can't go hang out at the arcade with our colorful sweaters. All right, for $5 for Sphincter of Doom, says Jurassic Park was in 1993, and it is even out of date in certain. It's actually out of date on a lot of things. And actually, I was just telling someone the other day, I was like, you know, virtually all of the animals in Jurassic Park are from the Cretaceous period.
Cretaceous Park.
It really is more Cretaceous Park. So, like, I was trying to think, the only examples I could come up with that we've seen at all in Jurassic Park that are actually Jurassic are the Stegosaurus, the Brachiosaurus, and the Allosaurus, which wasn't even in the movies until I think that one short they released after Fallen Kingdom that was just like a little short, but it still exists in the Jurassic Park / world continuity, where an Allosaurus attacks a family in their camper. Which is actually really good, by the way. Go see that.
Yeah, that's. I saw a teaser recently on Twitter that suggests that we may be seeing, interestingly enough, and this is you're really gonna be like, wait, what?
I think I know what you're gonna say. Oh wait.
Yeah.
I did see that. That looked like a Dicynodon.
Yeah, and everyone was like, wait a second, what's going on here? But it was really cute because it was like a Dicynodon wearing a mask.
Oh.
They were like, pause filming because.
I've also heard rumors that the plot for the next movie is going to involve another company having gotten a hold of the technology to clone dinosaurs, and theirs are not going to be made for theme park amusement, and so theirs are actually going to be more accurate, and this is Jurassic Park's excuse to get more accurate dinosaurs.
You know, I actually respect that, though, because it's better than them just being like, you know, screw it, we're already in too deep on on our Spinosaurus, you know, like.
Oh yeah, that Spinosaurus. The Spinosaurus was good at the time. Like, I can't really say it was a bad reconstruction when it was made. It was actually pretty good. But that's just because we had so much less material. Which is another reason, get up-to-date material when you're citing science, guys. Eric?
Yeah, that's the thing, dudes. Like, if you're doing a literature
Oh,
search,
yeah.
right, you want a
Dilophosaurus.
very broad range of dates. Like, you obviously want to include some older stuff if it's relevant, as said earlier. I'm just trying to backpedal a little and make sure that folks know that there's nothing wrong with citing old sources as long as they are
You have to have a
relevant
good reason.
and applicable. Yeah, right. The long and short of it is, if the idea is still true, you're good. But if the idea is not, then you probably want to look into it a little bit. But yeah, up-to-date science is going to be your best bet. I have definitely been victim of being like, yes, here is thing, and then someone will be like, did you know 3 months ago thing was like got new additional information or was overturned or something like that? I'm like, ooh,
Whoops.
Rest in peace, my reputation on thing.
By the way, Megan Fox Giant Boobs points out that yes, Dilophosaurus was also in there. I actually kind of forget that Dilophosaurus is in Jurassic Park because the Dilophosaurus in Jurassic Park isn't a Dilophosaurus. I don't know what it is, but that's not what that is.
Oh my god.
$5 from Vandali 1998. Did you hear some guy named Copernicus just discovered the Earth actually goes around the sun? Just read the paper, Bob. Yeah, basically. It's like, oh, shocker. All right, here we go.
And by the way, there's a lot of stars, as we'll see here in just a second.
True.
The
Oh, he got that right.
represents
Take a drink.
one of the most fundamental, unsolved problems of contemporary astrophysics. They don't know how the stars
1990. Oh,
no one really understands how
the 90s. 92. Hey, we're getting better.
It's really
That's
remarkable.
intense.
We don't understand it. It's really cool.
No, we didn't understand it in
There's a
1992.
lot of stars out
We
there.
now understand it
what
better.
we do see is stars blow up, called novas or supernovas. We don't ever
Oh,
see
hey,
stars
you got that right again. Well,
that happens about every
partially.
30 years. What
He is right that we see novas and supernovas, so I'm going to call that he gets something right, and we're going to take a drink for it.
Yeah. It's you really have to be generous when we pass those out, you know.
Right. It's a cool picture, though. I do like his supernova picture.
Yeah, he's the thing. One thing you can say about Eric is that he has aesthetics down.
Much better than his dad.
Oh yeah, he knows the aesthetic that he's going for, and like for Eric, it's like kind of more modern, kid-friendly, easy on the eyes presentations.
I'd almost call it sleek.
Yeah. For Kent, it's like kitschy Dino Roadshow. Like
I feel
where
like
anything you touch might give you tetanus.
Yeah, I feel like Kent Hovind has the same aesthetic as like a
Carney.
It's like a VHS that's been copied a few too many times, and it was originally of a Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
Ugh.
That's what that feels like to me. It's like a really bad tracking copy of a copy of a copy, like Flintstones cartoon.
You won't even give this man reruns on Boomerang. Like you're just giving him like a hard copy of a copy of an actual VHS tape, sun damaged on the corners, right? Like
yeah. And then you look at it and you're like, I don't even know how I would play this if I wanted to.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Do you want to? The execution question.
Well, I mean, I have a show called Kent with Bent, which actually does take stuff that's been ripped from VHS tapes, so apparently I do.
So, side note, how far along are you on Kent with Bent? Have you guys finished his original series, or are you still working on it?
So we finished the original, his lecture series. Now we've dived into Creation Science Evangelism 101, his college course.
Oh no!
There's like 40 of those.
His college.
Yep, we've got years worth of Kent Hovind to go through.
Oh no! Oh, I had no idea he had one of those.
At the beginning, he claims that a number of schools have offered to accept it for credit.
Oh, he has not. Are you serious?
It's what he said. I don't know if that was true at the time. I doubt it still stands, because he's not teaching the course anymore, but like...
God,
yeah.
He's just gonna get struck by lightning. Like, oh god.
So, I really want to know if anyone went to a school with his little diploma or whatever he gives the students at the end and been like, hey, can you guys give me like 3 credits for this?
The thing is, if I had the opportunity to go to a Kent Hovind seminar, like, and not have to pay money for it and see Kent in action in person, I would do it in a heartbeat if it wasn't that inconvenient. I would love to see this man like take a Q&A from the audience.
With you there? Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, I mosey up to the stand. Hey, Ken.
Oh,
I have
Bentoven for $5 with 2 different emojis that cause us to drink says, I bet they were Sunday schools, and we drink because there's a Mothra and a Godzilla on there.
Oh, I do like that, yeah.
By the way,
Yeah.
you too can get Mothra and Godzilla emojis if you join the channel. It starts at $1.99 a month. You get access to my members and what is it? And patron-only server. You get through that server, you get early access to videos, and you get fun emojis. And your name will turn a different color in chat, and you get a little sticker after it. It starts out as a little basal tetrapod and a top hat. Then it goes to a black top hat, then a gold top hat, and from there, you'll just have to wait and find out.
Ooh, a top hat tetrapod. We do like those.
Yes, he's adorable, actually. Someone chat the little basal tetrapod in a top hat emoji. I did a little pixel art for it.
Oh my god! I've speaking of tetrapods, I've heard this is going to be very exciting for the Science Friends gang. But I've heard that our pals standing in the gang are thinking about tackling tetrapod evolution,
That'll
which would be very interesting. I would be fascinated to see their take on our lads of the Devonian, Eusthenopteron and Acanthostega and Ichthyostega and all the boys, you know.
Yes. Oh, so now we just got some of those little top hat tetrapods.
Look at their little tails.
I know. I made it cute on purpose. So yeah,
we got to get some more depth.
Yeah, I know we do.
What about, oh, by the way, since we can't see, test, or demonstrate stellar or planetary evolution, how the stars or the planets formed, can we put that in the classification of science? No, we really can't. What about organic evolution? Organic evolution is, life evolving from something
Abiogenesis?
that's not alive. God. Have we ever seen this happen? Life come from non-life?
It depends on how specific you're being, but no,
we haven't
probably not.
seen it, tested, or demonstrated it. So again, you can believe in that if you want to.
It's almost like that's why there's no theory of abiogenesis.
Yeah, it's almost like that. Imagine, God, that would be those scientists being honest, and we
Right.
can't have that.
And that's one of the things that bugs me here, is it's like, you could actually, this actually is not the worst rhetorical point. You'd be like, look, there is no theory of abiogenesis. So it doesn't therefore follow that you get to insert whatever it is you would like it to be, and then call that science, but it is true that there is no theory. Anyone who tells you they know how abiogenesis happened is lying to you. Like,
Yeah, so part of that too that's just really, it's just really strange and unnerving is that I feel like the certainty or imposed discertainty of abiogenesis kind of comes from all sides sometimes. Like, I know folks who are not very well versed in origin of life research at all who seem to think that we do have it all figured out, and we don't, and that's something that is okay. The problem is, right, this would be like in our forensics case, finding the murder victim, and we've got our potential killer, and he seems the most likely because we find footprints at the shoe prints at the site, at the scene of the crime, that seem to have the undercover footprint pattern that the pair of shoes that he has, and he's got a matching knife. But then there's also like 4 other people who have one of those traits, right? That maybe they have the same knife, or they have one shoe that's kind of similar. And that's kind of the situation, right? It's like abiogenesis has a lot of really good support, but we don't have the whole thing figured out yet. That doesn't mean you get to point to a random stranger on the street and suggest that he did the crime, right?
right, yeah. It just means we can't yet prove it was the guy we think it is, but it seems pretty likely.
Right, you can't pin it with certainty, and if you were to take this to court, right, if you were the cop, the officer who is informing, right, the defense and the prosecution, you would be the one who would be like, this is what it's looking like. We think it's going to be this guy.
Yeah.
But we don't know that for sure.
And
You wouldn't suggest that it could be anyone in the world.
Right. And then, so one of the things that bugs me is it's like when we get a lot of, well, how come evolutionists never talk about this in debates? It's like, well, first, you didn't want to debate abiogenesis. You said you wanted to debate evolution, so that's what I'm here to talk about. And 2, for a lot of us, I don't really have a dog in the race. Like, whatever the theory turns out to be, I will be fascinated by it being the theory, and I'll look into, if it happens during my lifetime. I'm sure I will study it, and I'll try to figure out an understanding of it as much as I can. But on the other hand, whatever it turns out to be, I'm not going to be disappointed. I'm not going to be like, oh, shoot, I was hoping it was about hypercycles first and metabolism coming, and like, nope, I don't have a pet hypothesis for abiogenesis. It's whatever it is, that's good. That's good for me.
Absolutely. I'm in the same boat. I don't have a favorite abiogenesis hypothesis or, origin of life hypothesis in general. I don't really have one that I'm like, yes, this is my hill that I'll die on. But that being said, I will 100% die on the hill that evolution is the thing that happened and the Earth is approximately 4.5 billion years old, because those things are as factual as anything else in science, right?
Well, luckily, living not in Saudi Arabia, that probably isn't going to actually happen, that you have to die on that hill.
God, true.
Yeah, so, Saudi Arabia, man. They were on the Council for Women's Rights in the UN.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
I'm not a big Trump fan, but like when he's like, maybe we should defund the UN, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't seem to do much. We might as well. What's the point? Like, honestly.
I honestly, yeah, I'm also not a Trump fan, but at the same time, it's like I don't really know why Saudi Arabia gets to not be roasted on their human rights violations, but at the same time, I don't know why China is not being roasted on their human rights violations.
3 letters. O-I-L.
Yeah.
That's why. That's literally it.
I would love to see the Middle East. Like I've wanted to go to Egypt for a very long time, but as someone who is indeed a woman, that would not be a safe endeavor for me to make at this point.
Not right now. It would have been safer a few decades ago.
No, I know, and I mean that's the thing. Like I would feel, I know some badass women who have gone whitewater rafting in Rwanda and explored the Democratic Republic of the Congo and seen the bonobos there and gone to stayed periods of time in South Africa, and it's like all of those places can be a little bit dicey, but those same people are like, yeah, you won't catch me in the Middle East, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're women and they don't want to die.
I mean, you could go to Dubai.
I've been to Dubai. I hate Dubai.
I have mixed feelings about Dubai. I liked it in some cases, but then there were other times when it was like, everything's so damn expensive.
Oh, dude, it's so freaking sandy there too. I got sand in my teeth in the airport.
When we were off the coast of Dubai, we got sand on the ship because it would blow in the air and then get sucked down into the vents, and we got sand dunes on the decks on the ship.
Oh my god.
We had to go.
And deserts are so cool, but also like they're scary. And
most of them aren't like that. Come out to the Phoenix area and come check out the desert here. It's not dusty and sandy like that, despite being at least as dry.
Yeah, this is becoming like a light.
Yeah, we'll keep going for a few minutes here. We're just trying not to listen to Eric. That's all it is.
Just because it's in the science book doesn't make it part of science.
You get the reversal thing here. The science books look at science, and then oh goodness, something in my throat. Give me 1 second here.
Okay, I can monologue while he's gone.
Oh, I'm good. Just had to. So yeah, these books look at what the science is, and then from that they choose a subsection that is one, relevant, and two, reasonable and age appropriate for their audience, right? So like, if you wanted to teach a middle school class on biology, you're probably not going to look into like, linkage blocks and like retrotransposons and stuff like that, because these kids are like 12. What are you doing?
Dude, that would be a badass class though. Like imagine, I feel like everyone had that one kid in their class though who would be like in middle school and they'd be like, excuse me, Mr. Wilkington, when are we going to get to the part about the linkage block? And you're like, this guy is going somewhere.
Yeah. Sometimes that was me, depending on the class.
No, yeah, that's, again, yes, same, depending on the class.
Yeah, there were classes where it was not the case, but, All right, let's get more Eric in.
What about Davies was once described as one of the best writers on evolution. He said, nobody knows how a mixture of lifeless chemicals, the soup, spontaneously
we got to this century.
Into the first living cells.
Yeah, I agree. No one does.
Well, they don't know how it happened, but they believe that it happened. Well, I say then take that out of science.
I'll say, so here's one of the things. Everyone, even young Earth creationists, agree. At one point, Earth had no life. Then later it did. Therefore, at some point, the first living cells came to be.
Yeah, it's all about their weird culture war, honestly.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's very strange.
Science, because science is knowledge that is derived from observation and study. Then the last kind, or next to the last kind, is macroevolution. Macroevolution is changing from one kind of animal into a different kind of animal.
Now, in a real presentation by a real scientist, at this point, he would stop because he has a word he needs to define. Want to know what word that is, everybody? Or can you guess?
Let's let him guess.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, let's keep going.
Ladies and gentlemen, have we ever seen a dog produce a non-dog?
No, nor will you ever.
Dogs always produce what? That's just kind of the way it works, okay?
It's almost like the law of monophily is in operation today just as it was before.
Dude, okay, so like you could just deep fake, right? You could just deep fake an Eric Hovind lecture into a Kent Hovind lecture and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Actually, what is it? Apologia and who was it? Logic. They did something where they played some of Kent Hovind and Eric Hovind's speeches over top of each other, and like even the timing on the line delivery was almost identical. It's creepy.
Oh my god.
Yeah, go check out that series. I don't have a handy link to it, but like, yeah, it's a thing. It's weird.
Dude, now that would be a dangerous drinking game, right? It's like you have someone read a line and you have to
just
guess
mainline vodka at that point.
Yeah, like at that point you're just like, you know what? I guess I'm dying tonight.
Yeah, just like put that vodka bottle upside down, hook it up to an IV drip, and just feed it straight into you. There's no point. Don't ever do that, by the way. No one here should ever do that. That will... I'm not a doctor, but I'm extremely confident that would be lethal. All right.
I'm thinking... Oh wait, Vandalia 1998 says, were the first single cells day 5 or day 6?
That's a good question. The Bible doesn't really give us a good hint on that one. And also, since that had a Godzilla emoji in a super chat, we're taking a drink.
We drink. This might have to be my last segment.
All right, that's fine. So let's see what else he has to say.
Macroevolution. There are a variety of dogs in the world today, but they always produce dogs, exactly. I mean, the Chihuahua and the Great Dane are both very different, but they're both
cute picture.
If you consider the Chihuahua a dog. Personally, I don't, okay?
Oh my god.
So first of all, cringy joke, so I'm taking a drink.
Dude, that's a straight Hovind rip, too. Like,
it's a straight Hovind joke, and here's the worst part. If you take him at his word, then that means we produced a non-dog out of dogs by breeding the Chihuahua.
Okay, right?
Like,
oh my god.
Don't tell the joke if it disproves the point you're trying to make. If Chihuahuas can't be dogs...
God, it's worth it for Eric. He got so much funnier after he ditched the Kent stuff. Like, his jokes are so much better now, and, I don't know.
I mean, they're still cringy, but...
Yeah, Kent isn't allowed at, like, the League of Extraordinary Creations long table, like, they force him to sit, in the bathrooms or by the dumpster. But that being said, yes, I mean, we can make fun of Eric all day for his weird aesthetic and bad jokes. But that being said, he genuinely just doesn't understand the law of monophily, and his father and Eric himself still don't to this very day.
Do you think they genuinely don't understand it, or do you think that they choose to continue on as if it didn't exist?
I think they understand it. I think they think it's irrelevant. But I don't think they actually. I mean, obviously, I don't think they actually do get it. I think in probably Hovind Senior's case, I think he probably knows what the law. I think he's been corrected on that probably over 100 times in his lifetime. So he probably realizes that something's up. But I don't know. At the same time, they're really, and when I say they, I mean creationists in general, are really, really good at hearing something, comprehending it in that single exchange, and then Men in Black memory wiping it before you interact with them again.
Yeah, it's very true, and it's very, very strange. I do not understand how that is, because it's one of those things where it's just like, how do you memory hole something that was so important to a discussion so fast? Like, I memory hole things all the time, but there are always things that I'm like, well, this wasn't important to anything. So, oh, there it goes, down the drain. Not going to keep remembering it.
Yeah, so JG and Wobbly Nostrils are both saying that they're liars. I think that absolutely 100% can and frequently is the case. But I think that when we call, this is just me, but when I think of someone as a liar, right, a lot of times I'm like, okay, if they're kind of a nice person, why are they just completely bullshitting me? What's the deal here? And
sometimes they're just not a nice person.
Sometimes they're not a nice person, right? But sometimes I think, too, that in their minds, they feel that the truth is going to vindicate them eventually, and so they feel that they're lying in the interim, and hoping that at some point they will be proven to be correct.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a waiting game. Like, I think that's what the brain trust does. I think Standing genuinely thinks at some point he's going to be, like, proven correct. And I think that the Hovinds are way past that. Like, I think for the Hovinds, it's more of an evangelicism? Evangelical thing?
I think it's evangelism is the word you're looking for.
That's the one I'm looking for. Yeah, sorry. Evangelism.
Because evangelicalism is different.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Yeah, that was my, what'd you say earlier? A brain blank?
Or brain fart, or whatever you want to call it, yeah.
Yeah, my mistake. But yeah, I hope that's kind of clear, my position on it. That doesn't mean that you have to put up with them, by the way. It just means that it acts as a way to kind of contextualize what the hell it is they're doing.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it's important to have an understanding of what a motive could possibly be if you want to continue interacting with someone, because then that allows you to help, formulate your future exchanges, or decide whether or not you want to have continued exchanges. And people have reasons to lie. At least people who aren't pathologically liars. If people have a pathological compulsion to lie, they lie simply because there's something in their brain that's like, no, you have to lie about this. Doesn't matter what it is. You have to be. Now that's a weird. I mean, that's a pathology. That's why it's called pathological lying. That's a medical problem. But assuming that that's not the case, which is not. I mean, that's the case with very few people. When you lie, there's a motive, and it's interesting to try to figure out what the motive might be in some of these cases, because most recently there was a video from someone whom I knows that the contents of the video were incorrect. It was a video about are birds dinosaurs or not.
Are you going to roast this person? Can I put them on one?
I'm going to be roasting this person. I would prefer that if you roast this person, it be for the points that you deal with mostly.
Okay, deal.
So, but do please roast the person eventually.
Okay, yeah, completely unrelated. in a completely unrelated reference. The brain trust does this a lot. And, for a while I was kind of like, yeah, maybe it's just because, according to Standing, there are multiple people who run the channel. So maybe it's just because, they take turns and not all of them are informed at once. But I know for a fact that all the members who run that channel have been informed multiple times about a lot of things that they've recently made videos on. So the question is, why are they still talking about it?
Right. And why are they repeating their previously shown to their faces to be wrong points?
With no new arguments. That's the thing.
Right.
Like, if I say to you, the sky is green, and you're like, it's not green because here are a bunch of pictures. Then if I come back and say, no, the sky is green, I need to be like, hey, I have reason for you to believe that these pictures might be altered. I can't come back and just say, no, it's green, right? Like, I've already been shown that it's not. Gigi said, a lie for a good reason is still a lie. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And so I sort of go with I kind of like Aaron Ra's definition for when you can reasonably call someone a liar, or one of the ways you can reasonably call someone a liar. If they are someone who has been corrected on an error that they have made, comprehended the mistake, and then continue to make the same error, that is not a mistake anymore. That is now a lie.
Yeah.
So, for instance, one of the things that happened here was someone said that, oh, see, birds don't have an open acetabulum, and so all the dinosaurs do. But I have shown this person bird pelvises and pointed out the acetabulum, and that all of them, in fact, do have an open acetabulum. So, when this is produced on a video of his, that makes it a lie.
Yeah, I would absolutely say so.
Now, I will grant that it wasn't this person directly who made the claim. However, he agreed with it. So at that point...
It was the same in my situation. And you would think that that would be at least that this individual, in my situation, which is, of course, completely different than the one that Dapper is talking about, the Brain Trust released a video that was the difference between humans and apes, which is, the difference between canids and dogs. But still, he said nothing as his guest was making the case. I think it was Carter. And was it Carter? Am I remembering? I think it was Carter.
I think it was Carter.
Yeah, as Dr. Carter was making his case, and his reasoning was essentially like, yes, well,
Dr. Carter, the chemist, by the way.
Yeah, the shape of the spine, and where are the missing links, and the brain case size difference, and all of this stuff that I know for a fact Standing had explained to him. Then he proceeded to say nothing, ask no questions, nothing like that at all. Which kind of leads me to believe that he either A, agrees, or B, doesn't care about the actual facts of the situation, which is concerning to me. But, on that note, very briefly, Zach Brannigan said in the side chat, asked if I was done with the Brain Trust. Yes, but I'm going out on a blaze of glory, so I have a heavily edited 3-hour video that is going to be done any day now. I know I keep saying that, but this time it's true.
Another 3-hour video was really well.
But that's the thing. It's heavily edited. The last one I just recorded and put together, so together like a Frankenstein's monster. This one is like nicely done, which is why it took so long. I'm very unhappy with the gang over there, the Sweet Brain Trust. I expected better of them, but what are you gonna do?
Oh, before you do finish and hit the render button, send out the Dapper signal, and we're gonna work on your audio leveling.
Oh, please. Yes, please.
Okay.
My audio is horrible. Because the thing is, so I edited in Lightworks, and I spent probably an hour and a half the other day trying to figure out if there was a way to normalize levels in Lightworks, and it just seems like there isn't, because everyone was like, export it to Audacity and do it there. And I was like, I don't want to do that.
All right, I think we can get a way to make it work.
Okay.
But that's a bit too technical and inside baseball for on air. So... it won't be exact, but we can eyeball it, and I think it'll be a lot better.
Oh no, okay, Scott Summers is here. Wow, you guys are hopeless. It was Jackson, not Carter, and both Carter and Jackson are not chemists. It is Sephardi that is a chemist. You guys don't pay attention to all the SFT team. I'm showing them this.
Go ahead.
Yes, Scott, you should.
Go ahead.
You should absolutely show them this.
Oh, by the way, for $5, lies make baby Jesus cry, so creationists are both bad scientists and bad Christians. Here's the difference between me and the Brain Trust. I've been... corrected on which of the pseudoscience hacks they like to associate with, and I accept the correction, and I was wrong, guys. There's my public correction. What I'm not going to do is then continue to insist that it was Carter in future interactions, because I was corrected. That's the difference. That's going from mistaken, honestly mistaken, to honestly corrected.
Yeah, also... I am in the same boat. Yeah, I was double checking. Yes, I am in the same boat. Yes, it is Jackson. You were right, Scott. Thank you for the corrections. You guys are so out of date, it's pathetic, and have not addressed any of SFT's arguments yet. That is clear. Oh, Scott, I expect you to be 100% in the side chat and present. I will make sure to show up. And one of Standing for Truth's more recent streams to let you know the exact minute that I release my 3-hour response to the gang, just so that you can be sure to be present. And soak it all in, because it does indeed address all of the Brain Trust's arguments.
But by the way, Scott, I do really sincerely appreciate the interaction. It only serves to help feed this into the algorithm, because
that's true.
This little channel is getting helped out. So thank you very much, Scott Summers. It is great to have you here. Please come back anytime, as long as you remain polite, which actually so far you have, although you've been a little bit confrontational. That's not against the rules.
Oh my God, Dapper! I think he might have called in the team Jay Brooks says, "Are you the evolution people?" Yes, Jay, we are.
Yes, we're the evolution people. That sounds like a good band name. Should we start a band?
Jay, listen, the thing is that I want it to be known, like, the questions that I've presented and Dapper on other occasions has presented to the Brain Trust and indeed some of the professionals, they're open and, still out there, easily accessible in the summaries of most of my videos, and Dapper is the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So why not just answer the questions? Like, why beat around the bush?
It's because they know the answers to the questions would disprove their nonsense. That's
right,
why.
and to clarify, since it wasn't Carter, it was in fact Charles Jackson that released the video, that separation of men and apes. Allow me to rephrase it. Jackson's arguments are bad, and Jackson's arguments were not actually addressed by SFT, despite the fact that SFT has in fact been corrected on arguments far more sophisticated than the ones that Dr. Jackson put forward, which should be, commendable that SFT is actually doing better than a man who, has a degree in the field. You would think that the shape of the spine would not be an argument put forward by our friend Dr. Jackson. But that being said, all in good time, Scott.
Let's see. Scott Summers has a question for me. I like you too. Well, thanks. I actually do appreciate that. Do you remember what Sephardi's request was for Bird Dino on what you said was open versus closed? That was the acetabulum. And in fact, that is going to be addressed in an upcoming video. I don't have the script ready for it, but it is the next thing I'm going to script. And I'm interrupting the current videos that I'm working on to work on that. So expect that.
For the Fox P2 game that Jackson and SFT talked about, I feel like Jackson has sufficiently addressed that, but if you'd like, since I'm still working on this genetics video, just for you, Scott, since I do appreciate the interaction, I'm happy to put that in there as well.
Okay. Well then, so the answer is basically, for me, real quick, what was supposed to be open versus closed was an acetabulum. All dinosaurs, birds included, have an open acetabulum. So Mr. Sephardi's, because I'm tired of calling these hacks doctor, Mr. Sephardi basically asked for someone to produce essentially any dinosaur in the world, which includes all birds in the world. Now, secondly, he wanted something with the feathers and an open acetabulum. Well, all the feathered dinosaurs and all... Yeah, there you go. Anything with feathers has an open acetabulum. Problem solved. It's really that simple. You've got one, you've got the other.
Yeah, he actually is correct on that. Not to mention the fact that as someone who doesn't know a lot about dinosaurs, there are also just like a ton of dinosaurs that meet the criteria for bird, and that, the one that we use today to define birds.
Actually, whether or not it's a bird is actually very tricky in many cases, but it's never tricky as to whether or not it's a dinosaur at that point in dinosaur history. Once you're into the Jurassic, there are no maybe dinosaurs left, essentially. As long as we have a pretty clear picture of the overall anatomy, we know for certain if it's a dinosaur or not. There are some forms, like Lagosuchus and things like that, in the late Triassic, where it's kind of iffy if it's a dinosaur, because dinosaurs and their close relatives are so similar. But from Jurassic onward, it is almost never a question as to whether or not an organism is a dinosaur, and birds are unequivocally dinosaurs. And for $4.99 from Robert Birkinson, is Erika aware of Piltdown Man, Java Man, Archaeoraptor, Nebraska Man, and how they poke holes in evolution? One of those names is not like the other, although so we've got, what is it? So we've got three hoaxes and one Homo erectus.
Yeah, in this case, you've got 3 hoaxes and one that is a skull cap that was proposed by Creationists to be a Gibbon skull cap, but is in fact not a Gibbon skull cap.
Right.
But that being said, Robert Birkinson, while I do appreciate the question,
and the super chat, that's very nice of you.
Yeah, and a super chat. Yes, I very much applaud the engagement. Actually, I've never met you before, and you seem cool. So thank you for putting that forward. So Piltdown Man, that we'll do that one first. So Piltdown Man was a human skull with an orangutan jaw, and this was actually figured out to be a hoax by anthropologists, not creationists. And because it was figured out to be a hoax, the scrutiny with which all subsequent fossil finds have been analyzed with has been just insane when compared to any other kind of like taxa.
Yeah.
Human evolution is scrutinized very heavily because of the likes of Piltdown Man.
Another thing,
Nebraska Man was never
I have
considered to
one
be
thing I
a
want to add
hominid.
on Piltdown Man real quick. So if you look
Yeah,
if you look at proposed phylogenies back when Piltdown Man had not been exposed as a hoax, it was almost always put as the outside group to the rest of hominini. Or I'm using modern terms, right? But and there's a reason for that. Is because even when it was first found and it wasn't known to be a hoax at the time, it was immediately recognized as being weird and out of place, and so it was relegated to this like weird side branch of, you know, the human subfamily, and was sort of like, or no, actually the human tribe is actually lower than subfamily at this point. And so even immediately we're like, this is clearly not a big part of the picture of the evolution of Homo sapiens, even when they thought it was real. So
No,
there is
what-
that too, because it didn't fit with everything else we were learning, which is why people were suspicious of it in the first place.
Well, the whole problem with Piltdown Man is that it came out when bipedality versus big brain was the dominant argument in anthropology,
Right.
and it fit the big brain first, which is something that violated everything else we were finding at the time, which is actually eventually what led to a closer inspection. Nebraska Man, someone in the comments said, "Let me find you so that I can give you credit." Robert Adslet.
That's it. Yeah.
Adset. I don't think Nebraska Man can be legitimately called a hoax.
Yeah,
A
that's fair.
mistake, yes, but not a hoax. No, I
That's
100%
fair.
agree, which is what I was going to say, is that Nebraska Man was never purported to be a hominin by any anthropologist.
Only by the discoverer
Anthropology-
of the original tooth, yeah.
Right, the anthropologists were the ones that were like, wait a second, this is not a hominin tooth. This belongs to not an equid,
A peccary.
peccary. Yeah, but what am I thinking of? It's the
Tayasuidae.
name Suidae, yes, but
No, they're
I'm
not
thinking
suids,
of
they're Tayasuids.
Tayasuids. Well,
Artiodactyl?
maybe we'll remember in a second.
Is it Artiodactyl?
No, what definitely was an artiodactyl. It was I'm gonna think of it in a second. It starts with an E, I think. It's like a like it's not porcine, but it's very similar one. I'm just gonna
Well, for $2, Josiah Hansen says, y'all super chat more white belts to Dapper, please. Thank you very much. And remember, today, actually, I will be reposting the link in the chat. Today, we are, half of the revenue from this stream is going to help out Ilya Moon with her fund to support her through her cancer fund, or her cancer treatment. So there's a link if you wanted to donate directly. I will actually go ahead and talk a bit about Archaeoraptor. So
Entelodont. This is
so-
what I was looking for, by the way.
Oh, okay. Entelodont.
So entelodont teeth and cusping are really, really similar to what we see in suids in general, like big suids, and then I imagine two trisuids as well. But I was like, it starts with an E. I know it starts with an E, which is why, like, Mugmaker said equine, and I was like, it's not equid, but it sounds similar.
Man, Entelodonts were freaking horrifying. It's like, you ever
Yeah,
want to
Entelodonts-
see, like, a warthog the size of, like, a cow running at you? Tusks and all?
Interceptive.
Oh, my goodness. I will pass on that. But as far as Archaeoraptor, oh my goodness. Oh my, thank you very much. Bent Hovind sends a $50 super chat. It says, get bent, Ilya, with the Godzilla. Thank you. That is very generous of you. So thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. So I just got distracted because that was not something I was expecting.
Very cool, Ben.
All right, so where was I? Archaeoraptor. Okay, so Archaeoraptor is a weird thing because it was a hoax, but it wasn't a hoax that was really being played on the scientific community. It was a hoax being played on for-profit fossil collectors, right? So in China right now, in the areas around Liaoning province, we're getting a lot of these really nice, very well-preserved fossils, including lots of feathered dinosaurs. But the thing about fossils is that unlike something like gold, where like if you cut a gold brick in half, it's still worth just as much as the whole gold brick was, because no one cares what form the brick has. They just care about how much physical gold is there. That is not true for fossils. Fossils that are complete are far more valuable than partial fossils. So if you like say cut a fossil in half and tried to sell both halves, you would make less than half the money you would from the whole fossil. Well, this guy had a problem. He was a China dealer, a fossil dealer in the black market in China, because it's not actually legal to sell these fossils in China. So he had a fossil that was only half of a slab. He didn't have the counter slab. So basically, he found a similar other half of an animal and stuck the two pieces together, basically, in a way that they sort of fit. It was a pretty convincing thing if you weren't very familiar. But when it was purchased, it was shopped around to various paleontologists in the West, and everyone who looked at it said, no, I don't think that's a real find. I think that's chimerical and is not something that should be published. And so that is one of the reasons why Archaeoraptor was never actually described in any peer-reviewed journal. It was only in National Geographic. And so this was a hoax that didn't even make it to the literature. It made it to a pop sci magazine. That's it. Archaeoraptor did not at any point fool a single scientist. So that's an interesting one there. But also the actual fossils were interesting, and I'm double checking to make sure I don't get this wrong, because I believe that there was a Microraptor fossil as part of the composite, but I don't actually remember. Yes, it was Microraptor. And the upper body was Yanornis. So, there you go.
Yeah, so I want to touch on something else as well. When you consider hoaxes in science and in paleontology, there are hoaxes, quote unquote, that exist in any kind of field that involves finding things. Historical, like history in general and archaeology are biggies, which is why, and I know Dapper is going to remember this, a while back it was discovered at the Bible Museum, which is that in Tennessee? I can't remember, that that the entire collection of their Dead Sea Scrolls were hoaxed. They were fake. So here's the question. Does finding fake Dead Sea Scrolls invalidate all the Dead Sea Scrolls? No.
No.
That's ridiculous. That's silly. That's asinine.
Right.
So in the case of this, and because it's a good question, the person who asked this, like that's an excellent question to ask, and I have no reason to believe that it's anything but in good faith, which is awesome. But I would have to ask you to consider as well how hoaxes are composed and what the field looks like after they're discovered. Because interestingly enough, everyone instantly went to their Dead Sea Scroll copies after the Bible Museum incident, which happened Museum of the Bible, thank you, HGR, very recently, and was like, okay, like let's make sure ours are legitimate.
And I applaud them for being open about that.
Yeah, it's a check and balance that is really well needed, and that's a shock to the system, of course, for the entire field. But that's what happens in paleontology. If you Google, which I did this once to make a point in a debate that I had once, but if you look into hoaxes of biblical antiquity, you're going to be floored, because the number of hoaxes that have occurred in biblical antiquity, from shrouds that belong to this person or that person, items, Ark of the Covenant, all sorts of different random statuettes and things of that nature.
Yeah. At one point, there were enough. At one point, there were enough pieces of the one true cross to make like 5 crosses floating around Europe.
They grossly outnumber those in paleontology, and unlike those in paleontology, unlike those in paleontology, you can't readily figure out that that historical objects are hoaxes as easily, very frequently, because in paleontology, all you have to do is say, okay, it's literally not a bone, or you can look at the joints and see how they fit together and discover, okay, there's some kind of weird surface thing going on here where it's been filed down or built up, or one thing or another. There's some awesome laser technology that allows you to look at like occlusal surfaces too, that lets you know if the wear is consistent. So I don't think that that's a very good argument, pointing to hoaxes in evolution versus when it's put up against the hoaxes of biblical antiquity or historical antiquity. Big H is pretty wild.
And we have some people asking about whether or not I have accepted the truth that humans are not mammals. Erika, that video did come out.
Yeah, I know. I've been dragging my feet on it because it's going to piss me off.
Well, if it helps, the person saying these things knows that it's a joke. In fact, at one point, my narrator, he cracked a bit. I was talking about the lack of ospinus in humans, and he couldn't get through that line without cracking.
Oh my god. The thing
And we're probably demonetized now.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. So interestingly enough, right? Thank God, and you can double check this. Let's see. Dapper Dino knows, Dino Evolution, Erika knows, Human Evolution. Random question, but do you folks know any other evolution besides Dino and Human?
So those are definitely my best areas, but I'm also somewhat familiar with the so-called reptile to mammal transition. I know a bit about the sort of the more basal artiodactyl to whale transition.
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good for fish to tetrapod, and the cetacean evolution as well.
Yeah.
I've really looked into that.
I have an okay internal map of Lepidosaur systematics. It's not great. It's not as good as it is, say, for dinosaurs, but it's pretty good. I know where most things are fitting in there. Which actually, I was just listening to, and this is actually why I had Carter in my brain, is because literally right before we talked, Erika, I just finished up a talk that he had given in some church. I was thinking about doing a video on it, but it doesn't show his slides, and I really need it to show his slides, so I'm going to see if there's a different version of it. But he was talking about lizards evolving in the Triassic, and I was just like, no, lizards did not exist in the Triassic. There were more basal lepidosaurs that later evolved into lizards, but yeah, and he was like, mammals, and then he was like, oh, and there were mammals in the Triassic. I was like, no, there were stem mammals. There were, there were cynodonts.
Triassic.
Yeah, and like there were cynodonts that were very like mammal-like, but crown mammalia probably doesn't emerge until the middle of the Jurassic.
Yeah, no. It's the thing is too is that, and I find that a lot of creationists have an issue with this, and I say creationists, but most people have an issue with it. They just don't tend to apply it as confidently as creationists do. But there is a huge difference between the species divergence time and its speciation time, which is why I've seen. God, I would need like 10 hands to count on my hands how many times I've seen it. But creationists will point to, okay, well, the secular date for, I don't know, tetrapod, the tetrapods actually making it onto land is, X amount of million years. And then, oh, lo and behold, 10 million years earlier, we find tetrapod tracks. What's up with that? And the answer is because when we find a fossil, that creates a minimum date, right? Like that's at least we know they're around at this time.
Yeah, that's why we say by this time.
Oh my God, we've got Standing in the chat.
Oh, hi, Standing.
Hello, Standing.
Well, there he is. He's talking to T-Lane. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, I'm like, who's Big Bad? And then I was like, oh, that's not me, it's T-Lane. All right, yeah, you can call T-Lane Big Bad.
Hymenoptera are incredibly cool, Atheist Junior. I find that unfortunately we've got a deficit with many of our smaller animal fossil records, which is just a big time bummer. But luckily, animals that are like hymenopterans that tend to spend more time kind of in groups do better, but they just weren't always eusocial. So it creates a bit of an issue. And we've got like a heavy bias towards the tail end of Hymenoptera.
Oh, Sphincter of Doom for $5 says, Dimetrodon is a synapsid, but clearly looks like a dinosaur. Checkmate, evolutionists.
True.
Actually, I'm going to go ahead and say that Dimetrodon only looks like a dinosaur if you don't know what dinosaurs look like.
The thing about Dimetrodon is that I don't think I've ever gotten like a dinosaur toy or figure pack that didn't include Dimetrodon.
Yeah, unless you're buying the toys individually, which is actually how I get when I get like my nieces and nephews dinosaur toys. I usually go for individual dinosaurs that are accurate, or as accurate as I can find.
You get like the what is it, Schleich?
Schleich, and there's also Safari Limited. I think also has some pretty good ones.
Oh yeah, dude, their figure quality is so good.
Yeah, so that's my solution to that problem. And when I did give my nephew a synapsid, it wasn't Dimetrodon. And when he asked what kind of dinosaur it was, I informed that it wasn't a dinosaur. It was, in fact, a therapsid, and it was, I believe it was a Gorgonops.
Dude, Gorgonops is so freaking cool. I didn't know they made a Gorgonops figure. That is insane.
Yeah. No, it's pretty good, too. It's not too speculative, but it's also not, like, it doesn't look like a lizard with fangs. So, yeah.
My only Schleich figure is my sweet Dunkleosteus. who sits on my shelf looking foreboding and cool, because those guys are awesome.
Yeah, and I now realize that despite the fact that you said you wanted to go an hour, we've just chatted with the chat for a half hour.
We need to do some chats more often, because I do enjoy engaging with the chat.
Well, come by.
That's a short question with a long answer.
Yeah.
Read the work of Walton. I really like what Walton does. I think he's got like a Lost World series, and I very much enjoyed his interpretations of Adam and Eve and the creation story as being more of a temple inauguration. I think it's really cool.
You know what's standing for truth? I really appreciate that. He said Dapper has great, or it says had, but I suspect he meant has. Great production. He deserves the super chats, and I appreciate his hard work with his videos. Thank you very much. I actually do put a lot into it. The video that I just uploaded, I want to say it was Saturday that I uploaded it. It won't be out for a few weeks, but it was probably a good solid 30 plus hours of scripting, animating, editing, rendering, double checking all my frames, because it's going to be about an 18-minute, of which more than half of that runtime is fully animated Dapper Dino. So, yeah.
Holy mackerel, dude.
Yep, 30 frames a second, animated Dapper Dino.
30 frames a second?
Yep, that's what I animate at.
Now, listen, because I do hand animation, so you know that frame by frame hand animation.
You couldn't do 30 frames a second.
Yeah, 30 frames a second is not even close to something viable.
I think you're somewhere around, like, what, 12?
Yeah, 12 are most of them. Most of them are about 12. And that's pushing it.
Well, 12 is a pretty good one for, like, non-professionally done animation. Like, if you're being paid a full-time salary to do that 8 hours a day, 24 might be reasonable.
Yeah, believe me, we're not there yet, but we're getting there.
Oh, and Josiah Henson says that we appreciate the long hours and hard work. And I really do appreciate that you guys enjoy that, because while it is a lot of work, and I do work hard at it, it is something that I enjoy doing. Although, I will say, sending my 12,000 frames to a render farm and then having to check for all of the ones that got an error and then manually re-render them myself is sort of a nightmare, and I hate that part.
Oh my god, yeah.
So actually, you know what? Why don't we just do a quick, like, how a Dapper Dino production goes, right? So give me a second here.
I do, hell yeah.
So we're gonna open up Blender, and I'm gonna open up the file that I animate with. Okay, so the first part of we're gonna take like a debunking series type video. Like, how do I do that? So the first part is basically I have to find something that I think is worth responding to, and that basically is just sifting through pseudoscience stuff, usually creationism, but I'm open to other stuff too. And let's get this here. All right, so we'll get rid of this front thing. So then the next thing I do is I download the video and I drop it into my editor, and basically I create a cut every time I want to insert my own commentary. So what I do is I open up my text editor and I open that up in an editing software, and every time I get to a point where I'm like, nope, I want to cut and talk here, I make the cut in the editor, and then I put in numbered groups what I want to say. So I'll say, okay, this is the claim, I'll check on sources, I'll double check, make sure I'm getting things as right as I possibly can, write that in the script, continue on with the video, get to the next part, hit enter a couple times, new block section, and I number these sections, right? So that way I make sure that they all go in order. And then once the script is done, I record, I'm out of drink anyway.
I'm out of drink.
Once I'm done with that, then I record the audio in Audacity. I make sure that it's normalized to a certain level, and so that I have reasonably consistent sound. But here's where the interesting part comes in. So this is my main animation file, and you're going to have to excuse me. My sound quality is going to have to drop a little bit because I have to take some echo canceling tiles away so I can use my keyboard. So this is the Dapper Dino 3D model. What I have here is the rig for it. So these are all different bones. Some of them are just to position things. And Erika, I guess you're not seeing this. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm looking at it. I'm actually have the chat pulled up, so I'm watching it delayed live stream.
Okay. So yeah, these all control different things. Get the hip bone here. But there is one exception. I do not control the mouth with this actual skeleton. This is actually done up with a driver. So this little purple value here, this is actually controlled by this equation. var times negative 0.44817 plus 0.26692. That remaps this object here. Let me grab it. That remaps this object's location on the vertical axis into jaw rotation. And then to get this thing to move, what I do is I import a sound file. So I can probably import just anything. So if I actually just go to videos. Yeah, we'll do October credits. So, okay. Now, if I remap this here to come out. So if we go here, you can see that this is automatically moving my jaw the right way. Okay.
That's a big open mouth dino.
Yes, well, a lot of, so the degree to which an animal can open its jaw is usually called a gape. And a lot of theropods had fairly enormous ones. Allosaurus could go subvertical if you're holding the cranium horizontally.
Holy mackerel! That's insane.
Yeah.
I think some of the best gape that we have, vertical gape that we have today in animals would be, we see a lot of that in our Papuans. So we've got a lot of like big baboons that can open those mouths super, super wide, and it's actually thought that their canines are constrained by their gape.
Yeah. All right, so here's another thing is that, so if I make this so it scales a little bit easier so you can see this, this is a graph that helps me with my animation to know what's happening on each axis and for each value. So you can see that we have this wavy stuff. Well, this is generated by a noise system. So this takes a seed value, which is I don't remember exactly how all of the math works, but basically it creates a smooth curve that is more or less random. And yeah, this is the seed value is up here, and then I can move where it occurs here. And so I use that to get this this motion at the hip procedurally. And then basically I use this tailbone, this sort of torso control, this head location, and this head rotation. And all those together are what I manually animate, along with these hand location bones and these finger rotations. So that's 90% of the animation is done with that. Every once in a while, I'll give them a little shrug, which is not anatomically possible, but it looks good. And cute.
Don't forget cute.
Yeah, it is cute. I occasionally move the legs, not very much, mostly because it's not an action shot. You're not supposed to be paying too much attention to the fact that that's dinosaur stomping around. The idea is supposed to be that the information there. And then the last thing that I do, before I am finished, there's two last steps. One is I have to simulate the tie. So the tie simulation works like this. It has... So if I tab into edit mode, these are the actual vertices that exist on the tie. The tie is then, has a cloth simulation applied to it, which you can see there's our armature right here. This rig modifier attaches it to the skeleton. This cloth modifier tells it to simulate those vertices as if they were cloth. And then a solidify makes it so it's 3D instead of just a 2D plane. And then finally, a subsurface modifier gives it the appearance of having more geometry than it really does, so I don't have to burden the cloth simulation with all that geometry. So then I come down to here, I delete whatever previous cache I had, and then I enter in my start frame, which is going to be a few frames before the start of the simulation, which right now is at 0 or 1. So I put something like -20, set this to whatever my end frame is, which I'm just going to call 100 here because we don't need all that. And then I bake it, and then the tie works. Oh, except that I forgot to turn on the actual... I was in edit mode, so let me do it over again. This is a part that I often ends up getting mixed up. Did you bake? There you go. So there we go. So now the tie works. See? And then the very last step is I turn on the room. And this is the room where all of the stuff happens. So there you go. That is the making of a Dapper Dino episode. And then from here, that is the last step of the animation process. But then there's the rendering. So what I have to do is I save the file. And then that's what I want. So I save the file, and then I export these files to my render farm, which I use a render farm called Sheepit, which is a free distributed render farm. So basically what happens is you download the renderer client, and you render for them, and that gets you points. And then when people render for you, it costs you points. And how quickly your project gets rendered depends on how many points you have when you start the project. So there you go. Then I download those. Then I have to manually check each frame to see if it has had a mistake. If it does, I delete that frame. And then once I've deleted all the bad frames, I open up the original animation files and I render the frames that were deleted. Luckily, I can set Blender to automatically only render the frames that were deleted. There's a little setting called overwrite, which means it will overwrite the frames in whatever file location you're telling it to write to. If you uncheck that, it will only render frames that are set to be rendered in your file, but that are not in the file or the destination it's set to write to. So luckily, I don't have to do that anymore, where I manually have to select each frame, hit enter, and watch it render, and then wait for get the next one. So luckily, that has become gone a little bit faster. So yeah.
No one has any excuse to not do their own dinosaur-themed channel. Standing.
I didn't. My favorite Jurassic Park movie. I'm sorry. I was super not looking at the chat for that. So I apologize for that. I will tell you right now that my favorite Jurassic Park movie by far is the original 1993 Jurassic Park movie.
Mine is too. I just really like Jeff Goldblum in it.
Oh, I mean, Jeff. When do you not like Jeff Goldblum in a movie, though?
And that's 100% true. I love him. He's great.
There's some actors where I'm just like, if he's in it, he's going to be good in it. The movie might not be good, but he'll be good.
No, that's true. But I don't think I've seen him in a bad, Now bad is, I haven't seen him in a movie I hated. I've seen him in bad movies.
Yeah, like I don't hate Independence Day, but I know it's a bad movie.
Dude, I love Independence Day. Did you know, speaking of movies that are unfairly rated on Rotten Tomatoes, did you know that Armageddon has a 37%?
Really? Not nearly that bad. That's odd.
Abhorrent. I love Armageddon. I love it. I seriously will watch anytime it's on. And also love 2012. Disaster movies are like my kryptonite. I'll watch them 100%.
So yes, I am sorry that I was delayed in getting that to you, but we do have to start wrapping it up. We're actually coming up on the 2-hour mark.
No, I know.
So we had a bit of Eric with Erika, and then a bit of chit chat with the chat, and then a little behind the scenes. How do I make a Dapper Dino video? How does it actually happen?
Chit chat with the chat is fun. I like chit chat with the chat. Yes, let me shamelessly plug really fast if that's okay before I head out.
Of course.
Yes. So, on Thursday, I'm going to be on Vandalia 1998's channel. We're going to be talking about primate migration. It's going to be great. And then also I have a big honking 3-hour edited video coming out soon-ish. Let's tentatively say Friday. How does that sound for everyone? Good? Good.
It sounds good to me.
The chat can't reject. Yeah, so that's my whole deal. That's what I got going on.
All right. Well, the last thing that I have, first, I'm reposting the link for the GoFundMe for Ilya Moon. If you can afford it, please go ahead and toss a few dollars towards her as she is struggling to get through her cancer treatment. But like I said, without any income. So we don't know exactly how long that'll take, because that's one of those things where it's always difficult to estimate with cancer, because every cancer is unique. Yeah, so if that is something that you would like to do, please, I encourage you, go send a few bucks to her. As I said, I'm giving half the revenue that I get off of this stream to her. It'll take a few days for YouTube to process exactly how much that is, because they have to go through with like conversion rates and all that craziness. So what I'm going to do is, in a couple days, once I actually have the revenue estimate for this, I'm going to take half of that amount and donate it. And don't worry, there'll be screenshots, so you can check up on me that I didn't lie about how much I was going to give. So, and so I also want to say that Thursday, Fluffy Dino Lads the movie is coming. So if you enjoyed my taking a look at In His Image's paleontology expertise, you will be able to see all of it in one click. I think it's about an hour and a half. So, yep, there's that. Let's see. I don't know what's happening Saturday. Last last week I had Ask a Paleontologist, which was a lot of fun. Which actually means that now technically Ask a fill in the kind of scientist is a thing on my channel, because it's the second one, because we had Ask a Virologist. So let's see.
Dude, Zmorph says you should have chit chat with the chat every time you have a guest and co-star. Yes, 100%. You should do that. And then 2, Red Whale also wants to know, in your speculative evolution project, who is your favorite alien so far?
Oh, so that's one of those things that it's tricky, and if I give an answer, it will disappoint everyone. So I'm gonna go with the cliche mom line. I love all of them equally.
That means it's my aliens, gang.
I don't care for those proboscis gnathids, though.
Be sweet to them. They're
Actually,
good.
okay, so the next video in the series I'm working on now, I'm going to use some fan art, and it's going to be fan art from the Speculative Evolution project, and one of your boys is getting the spotlight in that one, Erika.
Oh, I love them. I love them.
Okay, so as far as that goes, though, I think I'm almost done. I think it's probably one more video in that series. In fact, I've had to reject a few of the creatures that I was sent by email that I'm working through for not following the submission guidelines. So that is one thing. If I do not have a submission that meets the guidelines, which we're going to be getting more codified, it will be rejected. Doesn't mean you can't resubmit, but it's sort of like submitting for publication to a journal. You don't meet the style guideline, you're out. Feel free to follow the style guideline and then try again. That's absolutely okay. But it's an auto reject at the point where it doesn't meet the submission guidelines.
Even if it's cool.
Even if it's cool. Doesn't matter how cool it is. I might actually tell you, I think this is really cool. Double check the submission guidelines, make sure you're following them, and resubmit, because I do want it. But the submission guidelines are going to be much more formal next time, and that's just so that I can more quickly and easily get through the submissions, figure out which ones I will and will not accept, and then get them into a video and get them on the website. Because I was not expecting to get what's looking like it's going to be about 50 or so creatures in Phase 2. Which, yeah, I know. I was expecting like maybe a dozen. So this has gone way over what I thought it would. And so that was why the submission guidelines were so loosey-goosey in the first one, because I wasn't expecting this kind of response. But since apparently that's the kind of response I can expect, there's going to be more formal style guidelines. And yeah, they won't be difficult. You're not going to have to like learn Latin or Klingon or something. Don't worry. Although if you do, and I'm going to just say this. If you follow all the style guidelines, except you submit it in Klingon, it's an automatic acceptance. But it actually has to be proper Klingon. If you just pop it into the Bing Translate and put whatever that is, it's not going to fly. So there you go. That's the easy way to get auto-accepted, is submit it in Klingon. Although that will make it a lot longer for me to read, because while I can read Klingon, it's not with the same fluidity with which I read English.
Okay, I can't read Klingon, so...
Alright, well there's another challenge. You get internet points if you can tell what it says at the bottom of the thumbnail for this video. But that is it for me. That is it for the show. I just want to give a special thank you to everyone who is here. Make sure you like the video, share it if you like. And I also want to say a very special thank you to all of you who super chatted. This is both from me and from Ilya Moon. So that's Ian Chen, Vandalia 1998, Scott Duke, Bent Hovind, Sphincter of Doom, Robert Birkinson, Josiah Hansen, and Zach Brannigan, who, by the way, I missed it. It was a £2 super chat that said, "My poverty support," with a laughing, crying emoji. Thank you very much, Zach Brannigan. And I got your name right this time.
Did you say Zap last time?
I have said Zap Brannigan a few times because, I mean, come on.
Oh,
Also,
I know.
watch Zap Brannigan reads Trump tweets. It's hilarious.
Global warming is a Chinese hoax.
It's really good. All right, bye, everybody. Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Hey, 57 peaks. That's not bad.